This is Launching Your Daughter podcast, and I'm your host, Nicole Burgess, licensed marriage and family therapist. The information shared in this podcast is not a substitute for seeking help from a licensed mental health professional. Now, here is today's episode. Episode 4. Welcome. Today I'm going to talk about anxiety and why it's actually not a bad thing that we have anxiety and some ways to cope with it or to manage it. Do any of these sound familiar? I have to get an A in all my classes, otherwise I won't get into college. I can't tell mom and dad because it might make them sad or angry. I don't know why Jane didn't talk to me during class. She was texting me before school. Sure, I can do that for you, no problem. But inside you're already feeling really overwhelmed. As school comes to a close for this year, it is not uncommon for anxiety levels to rise. It can happen again at the end of summertime for the beginning of the next school year. If your daughter is a senior and graduating this year, she may feel even more nervous and anxious about the next chapter in her life. All of this is normal. Anxiety-related mental health illnesses are actually higher in females than in males. Anxiety is on a continuum. You can go from normal developmental anxieties or stressors to more severe diagnostic anxiety disorders. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how those are diagnosed through what is called the Diagnostic Statistics Manual. And right now we're on number 5. And this is used by the mental health professional field, along with doctors, nurses, psychiatrists. And that's how we talk about clinical issues with one another is based on these symptoms and if it meets this diagnostic criteria. In the DSM-5, there is a category of anxiety disorders. It includes separation anxiety disorder, which is usually for younger children, selective mutism, specific phobias, social anxiety disorder, panic disorder, agoraphobia, generalized anxiety disorder, substance or medication-induced anxiety disorder, anxiety disorder due to another medical condition, or other specified anxiety disorder. Then is broken down into a separate related, which is still in the anxiety spectrum, is called obsessive compulsive and related disorders, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And it has a different chapter regarding trauma-related anxiety. Today I'm going to give more of an overview on generalized anxiety disorder, but I want to give just a little more information about some of the other ones. I often hear, I have anxiety and I don't know how to stop it. And anxiety doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong with you or it's bad. Fear can warn us of potential dangers either in our environment or with new people that we're meeting. Other times, fears can make us feel very dizzy or our stomach upset or give us headaches because we're doing something new or we're out of our comfort zone. For example, it is normal to have some nervousness when you're giving a presentation or a speech in school or things that you haven't done it very often. If you do not do this on a regular basis, your thoughts can be worrying about, I'm going to mess it up, people aren't going to listen to me, or they're going to laugh at me. When your fears or ongoing anxiety symptoms negatively impact your life, meaning it keeps you from doing things such as going to school or work or hanging out with friends, it may be beneficial to seek mental health help. In the DSM, it actually describes anxiety is, quote, it differs from developmentally normative fear or anxiety by excessive or persisting beyond developmentally appropriate periods. They differ from transient fear or anxiety, often stress-induced, by being persistent, typically lasting 6 months or more, although the criterion for duration is intended as a general guide with allowance for some degree of flexibility and is sometimes of shorter duration in children, as in separation anxiety and selective mutism. Since individuals with anxiety disorders typically overestimate the danger in situations they fear or avoid, the primary determination of whether the fear or anxiety is excessive or out of proportion is made by the clinician, taking cultural contextual factors into account. Many of the anxiety disorders develop in childhood and tend to persist if not treated. And as I stated, end quote, and as I stated earlier, it typically happens more in females than it does males. Again, I'm going to focus more on generalized anxiety disorder today, and I want to give you just a little bit of distinction between generalized anxiety, obsessive compulsive, and then post-traumatic stress disorder, which is one of the trauma-related disorders. There's a thing in our brain called the amygdala, and it's about the size of an almond, and it instructs the brain. It's part of the limbic system, and it plays a role in processing of our emotions, and it's the key to our survival, arousal, and automatic responses. It's associated with the fear responses, hormonal secretions, and emotional memory. It's most of the time it's called like the fear center or the security guard in our brain, which is designed to keep us safe. So again, if you're in a situation that's new to you and you just kind of get a gut feeling something's off, that's the amygdala typically talking, saying, hey, we need to be aware of our situation or our surrounding. It's not a bad thing, and it doesn't make you weird if you can't quite put your finger on what's going on. What happens if you've been in a traumatic situation, and what I mean by that is a car accident, you've been in a natural disaster, you've witnessed domestic violence in the home, you've been in an abusive relationship, both physical or verbal or sexually abused, your amygdala can get on kind of what is called the hypervigilant. It's on alert all the time. It's constantly scanning your environment. That's more related to post-traumatic stress disorder, which is more trauma-related, and I'll talk more about that in future episodes. But today I want to talk about more of the generalized anxiety disorder. And what that means, the diagnostic manual, it talks about you have 3 or more of these. It lasts occurring more days than not for at least 6 months. And it happens in school, work, home, all of that. And you have more, you're feeling like keyed up or restless or on edge. You're easily fatigued. You have difficulty concentrating or your mind going blank. You're irritable. There's muscle tension. You've got sleep disturbances, difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep. And it's more than... And the worry is not about, I'm going to worry about having a panic attack. That's specifically related to panic attacks or things that aren't related to the other disorders. When you have this, it is causing clinically what they call clinically significant distress or impairment in social, occupational, other important areas of functioning. And it's not due to the effect of substances or medication or other medical conditions. I will recommend for clients who come in, if the symptoms have come on over, the last maybe few weeks, whether it's anxiety or depression, and it's something new, I will recommend they go back to their primary care physician to rule out any medical conditions first and foremost, because sometimes that can truly be a cause of the anxiety or the depression is due to medical issues. And I want to go back for a moment. I forgot to talk a little bit about obsessive compulsive disorder and that distinction. So obsessions are defined as those reoccurrent and persistent thoughts, impulses, or images that are experienced at some time during the disturbance, and you feel them as intrusive or inappropriate, and it causes marked anxiety or distress. Compulsions are defined more by repeated behaviors, such as hand washing, ordering, checking, or mental acts of praying, counting, repeating words silently, that the person feels driven to perform in response to an obsession or according to the rules that must be applied rigidly. Again, this is per the diagnostic manual. Again, I'm not going to go into more details of the OCD, but all the coping skills that I'm going to talk about can help with managing some of those symptoms. So if we go back then to the generalized anxiety or just anxiety in general, if you struggle with thinking, you need to be perfect, whether it's you look perfect, you have to say the right things all the time, you have to get high grades, you can't disappoint others, or you want to please people all the time, then this is what I'm going to go over today. It's about creating a relationship with yourself, which in a way means developing a relationship with anxiety. If this is new for you regarding going more inward and being more mindful about it, it can actually feel a little more uncomfortable at the beginning as you begin to bring more attention to your fears and worries. I love this. I'm going to quote Elizabeth Gilbert in her book called Big Magic. She talks about imagining her fears in the backseat of the car when she's creating. And she has this wonderful, what she calls is the welcoming speech. So, quote, I have a welcoming speech prepared for fear, and I say before embarking on any new project or big adventure, dearest fear, creativity and I are about to take a road trip together. I understand you will be joining us because you always do. I acknowledge that you believe you have an important job to do in my life and that you take your job seriously. Apparently, your job is to induce complete panic whenever I'm about to do anything interesting. And may I say, you are superb at your job, and by all means, keep doing your job if you feel you must. But I will also be doing my job on this road trip, which is to work hard and stay focused, and creativity will be doing its job, which is to remain stimulating and inspiring. There is plenty of room in this vehicle for all of us, so make yourself at home. But understand this, creativity and I are the only ones who will be making any decisions along the way. I recognize and respect you are part of this family, but still, your suggestions will never be followed. You are allowed to have a seat and you are allowed to have a voice, but you are not allowed to have a vote. You are not allowed to touch the roadmaps, not allowed to suggest detours, not allowed to fiddle with the temperature. Dude, you are not allowed to touch the radio. But above all else, my dear old friend, you are absolutely forbidden to drive. Then we head off together. Me, creativity, and fear side by side forever, advancing once more into the terrifying but marvelous terrain of the unknown outcome. End quote. The reason I like how she's given that visual image of it is because fear is with us. I mean, we all have fear. It's not a bad thing. It just is inside of us. It's when fear or our worried thinking gets in the way and stops us from being in the moment, stops us from enjoying relationships not only with others, but ourselves, and feeling more fulfilled in our life. So some ways to manage that overall anxiety level, or just some stressors in general, I'm going to give you some tools that I use with my clients. Now, the tools that I'm listing, I think I've got actually more than 5. Some of them are going to work really well for you and some won't, and that's okay. It's trying to find what works the best for you. So one of the main ones that I recommend mostly to my teens and for the women that I work with is journaling, meaning write down your fears or your worries. Sometimes just writing down our thoughts can help us feel more calm and in control. Studies are starting to show that the physical act of writing is more beneficial than typing it on a computer or a cell phone. That somehow it's the way it is connected in our brain in that physical movement, the kinesthetic movement of our hand, that helps relieve some of that anxiety or the worries. Another thing to help feel more relaxed is just listening to music. If you have certain music or songs that makes you feel more calm or happy, or he can even distract you, that's another way of just reducing that anxiety. Of course, exercise is the go-to. Make sure you've got, permission by your doctor if you have any medical conditions. But that helps release the tension in your body. Often my clients are unaware of how they hold their bodies, i.e. they've got their shoulders up close to their ears, or they're sitting on the edge of the seat versus sitting back in the seat. They're bouncing their legs or their foot. Exercise can help release some of this energy and tension and begin to relax your muscles. Body posture can also make an impact regarding whether you're feeling anxious or depressed. I'm actually going to talk a little more about this in a future episode regarding Amy Cuddy's book on presence. She's got a lot of great information about power poses versus poses that make you feel less empowered. Another way to reduce anxiety or cope with it, or stressors in general, is talking to a friend or family members. Having someone witness our fears helps us feel not only heard and seen, but that we're not alone in this. Most of the time, my clients will come in and they have a thought that they're the only ones experiencing something stressful, or that no one else can relate to them. And the fact is, we don't go through the same things and feel exactly the same way with every different stressors in our lives. But the reality is we all go through stressful moments. And that's the key. It's a moment. But having someone there that you trust and that feels supportive, it's great for you to be able to talk to them about it, because then that takes some of that feeling overwhelmed down. And for you listeners, it's not your job to fix the fears. Just reflect back what the speaker is telling you and how they are feeling or what they're feeling stressed by. Your job is not to fix it, because you can't, but you can definitely support them. I think this was a big one, and I know it's getting more and more I guess, known in our country and throughout the world, but it's mindfulness practice, or sometimes called meditation as well. There are many wonderful mindfulness CDs or apps that you can use to assist in decreasing or managing your anxiety. One app that I recommend to clients is called the Virtual Hope Box. Another one is Headspace. I know people come out with new apps all the time that have different coping skills in them. So kind of explore what you got out there, whether you've got an iPhone or an Android. And that may be something that, again, you can download onto your phone, take it with you, and use that. The type of meditations you can do guided meditations where you're listening to someone walk you through becoming more present in your body. There's things called progressive muscle relaxation, where you tighten a specific area in your body, then you hold for a count of 8 to 10 seconds, then release it. There's sitting meditation or walking meditation in which you continue to bring your awareness back to breathing or an image or a sound, and you're really concentrating on where you are in that present moment. Many, many studies continue to show how mindfulness practices help truly decrease anxiety disorders and also help with depression. It's remembering that being uncomfortable or feeling stressed or feeling anxious is in this moment. It really will pass, as every emotion does, as every event does. It eventually does pass. Every moment continues to change. That's the constant, right? So one thing that I will talk to with all my clients regarding beginning to do or create a mindful practice is just deep breathing, where you take a deep breath in through your nose for a count of 4, and then you exhale for a count of 5 to 8, which really, and you're breathing from your belly. You're trying to expand the belly versus your chest area. That can help reduce it. There's various ways of doing deep breathing, and that's one method. Another method I talk about is you take a deep breath in through your nose, count to 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and then hold again for 4. You can do that a few times where you're truly counting. Then after a while, you just begin the normal breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Thoughts will definitely continue to come in and out of your mind. And part of mindfulness is not you're trying to wipe out all your thoughts. You're trying to be present, being in the moment. So instead of latching onto, oh my gosh, I still got to study for this test, or oh my gosh, so-and-so is going to be calling me soon and I got to go do this. It's like, yep, there's the thought. I'll let it go back to my breathing. That's part of mindfulness. We can't stop our brain from thinking. It's where we draw our attention to. I know many times clients, they talk about, I can't do mindfulness because I'm constantly thinking. And my clients will tell me, I just wish my thoughts were like a light switch. I can turn it off because they're constantly going. It's like, yep, it would be nice, but we can't. We have many thoughts per second, right? And it's just making sure you understand. It's like, okay, just because I have a thought doesn't mean it's true. And just because I have thoughts going on doesn't mean I can't just go back to my breathing or focus on an image, focus on a candle that is lit, whatever it is that helps draw your focus back to that present moment. That's what you're trying to do in order to reduce the stress level, reduce your amygdala from firing all over the place and getting the rest of your body on alert saying, okay, we got to do fight, flight, or freeze response. What's going on? It's all about bringing yourself back to the moment. If this doesn't work for you or you're really struggling with it, again, I would recommend seeking professional help to help you manage or break the cycle of getting stuck in that anxiety. If you'd like to learn more about meditations or some mindfulness practices, I invite you to go to launchingyourdaughter.com and sign up for my newsletter. I hope this was helpful, and stay tuned for our next podcast is with Kirsten Goffney. She's going to talk about play therapy and animal-assisted therapy and how that can also help with managing anxiety. Thank you for listening to Launching Your Daughter with Nicole Burgess, licensed marriage and family therapist. For more information or to stay up to date, go to launchingyourdaughter.com. You can sign up for my email list or join my Facebook group. Thank you.